Hello, everybody. Welcome.
Hello, hello. So this is our Energies and Opportunities monthly broadcast, and we're doing it a little bit differently this month because Shatan will be out of the country for, 3 weeks.
Yeah, sunning it on the beach of Bali. Well, actually, no, I'm going to be teaching in Bali, teaching human design.
Right, very exciting. So we pre-recorded this one for you, and it should be live for you on Thursday, May 22nd. We want to welcome you. In today's program, we're going to delve into the universal energies for the remainder of May and for the entire month of June. We're delighted to be with you. I'm Carola Eastwood.
And I'm Chetan Parkin.
And we're the creators of evolutionaryhumandesign.com. We produce this monthly series to keep you informed of the upcoming energies as they move through the planetary cycles, as they move through the astrological horizon and the human design wheel, so that you can stay abreast of upcoming cycles, whether they bring challenges or opportunities. We'll let you know specific timing of the most significant cycles of the month. As we enter the last month of this spring season, our School of Evolutionary Human Design has open enrollment. We want to invite you to take a look at that, to learn human design so that you can use it in your teaching or in your coaching, counseling, health practitioner, or expert advisory business. So without taking time for today's broadcast, do go and take a look at it. This training is comprehensive. It gives you 9 months of ongoing training, as well as twice monthly deep dive live practicums with the man himself.
And one of our graduate students, yes, just to see this works.
Yes. So, and for those of you who have perhaps already taken our levels 1 through 3 training, or any of you who studied elsewhere, if you desire to become an expert human design consultant, this June, our level 4 professional human design consultant certification course is open for enrollment. To learn more about that, go to evolutionaryhumandesign.com, select the certifications tab. In this training, we walk you through step by step how to deliver life-changing results. We not only present, there are 16 in-depth training sessions, as well as 18, right?
Yeah, 18 practical
sessions, 10 of which are bi-weekly meetings, and the remaining 8 is small group practice sessions. So what we do in the level 4 training is really support you to become expert at delivering the human design information. It's one thing to learn it and to understand it. It's another thing to be able to convey it in a way that's really impactful for another. So take a look if you're interested in becoming certified in human design. Okay, now let's dive into the current energies that are driving this next evolutionary leap for humanity. So you may have noticed the velocity of life speeding up. More happens now in a week than our ancestors experienced in a year, right? And this month brings increased acceleration towards outcomes we've envisioned that are now getting the green light. So all through most of May and through the month of June, all of those changes we've been considering and the inspiration that's come through, the desire of our heart and soul, the new thing that we want to put out there, it's now time to get to implementing. So over to you with the human design particulars of this period of time, the last week of May.
You know, you're saying more happens to us in a week than happened to our ancestors in a year. I think, honestly, it's more happens in a day. But it's, you know, we're managing it. We're somehow still got our heads above water. So press on, you know, exciting times. And we've come here for this. All kinds of extraordinary experiences are coming our way. So as I speak today, for the 22nd of May, we are in this position where the channel of initiation is open to all of us. This channel has shown up 3 times by transit this month of May. Initiation taking us out of the old into the new, out of the marketplace into a completely new appreciation of who we are and what our life's about, like reacquainting us with our innocent nature. And in our innocence we're kind of seeing, is this possible? Maybe this is possible. Maybe I'd forgotten all about the possibility of doing something very, very different with my life because life just took hold of me. So a lot of transformation happening in this time. At this moment in time, the sun in the gateway number 20, we have for this week, the 2034, this channel of busy, busy, busy. And whenever this shows up anywhere, it's just really worthwhile to see, yeah, I may be moving really quickly on things, but am I connecting with things that really bring me a sense of fulfillment? That's the whole question of it. The 20th gateway is the gateway of the now. It's the gateway of a neutral space between this and that. And so really the key to life, the more we get involved with crazy things, the more goes on around us. Can we bring ourselves into the present tense? Can we reacquaint ourselves with our life from this moment? And that's the challenge at this particular time as things are moving so quickly. The sun moves on into gateway number 16, come the 26th of the month, and immediately we have a new moon. And the new moon in gateway number 16, the gateway of enthusiasm. What's the enthusiasm for? It's basically the 16th gateway has this very quick recognition of what it is that's going to go anywhere and what it is that's not. It's just instant recognition. This looks like it's got a future. This I don't need to be bothered with. And so again, in this time of reacquainting ourselves with our lives, it's really, just to see, well, maybe I don't need to be doing this stuff anymore, It's like it's not going anywhere. And so great opportunity for innovation. I mean, we might see this reflected in all kinds of things going on around us. I mean, the massive out with the old that's going on at the moment. The 16 with the first line is the line that's called paying attention. Enthusiasm can be aligned to the real needs of the moment or not. Right? You either recognize what it is that's really trying to get your attention and go with that, or you bypass it. So a new moon opens up a whole new realm of possibility as we end up the merry month of May. And the sun and Mercury come together right at the end of the month there. And inevitably, what happens when the sun and Mercury come together? I mean, we can start speaking with fire in a sense. Our words can get quite heated quite quickly. So just to be aware of that. We're in the 16th gateway as well. And the one side of the 16th gateway is saying, all right, this thing's got a future or not. But the skill of the 16 is how to let people down gently. It looks like you've been going along with their ideas, and just, great. And then all of a sudden you realize this isn't working anymore. How do you let everybody down gently and just say, maybe we're either going to tweak this in a massive way or we're going to drop the thing altogether. And again, this is not about personal, hey, you're an idiot for having this whole idea about things. It's basically saying, look, this isn't going to work. It's not going to take us where we need to go. So how do we rearrange our lives, reacquaint ourselves with something different? So again, this is a great way to kind of cap off the merry month of May in realizing a lot of the things we've been backing or, trying to make work, they're done. Whether AI is kind of interpreting life in a different way for us, or we're just seeing, I need to back off a little bit from pushing so hard on things. And just to see what's life trying to offer me? What's life holding out for me? And just to see that this may be the opportunity we've really been looking for. What do you say for this end of the merry month of May?
Yeah, it's a powerful, powerful time. Some of the most flowing aspects of the month happen in this last bit of May. We have a new moon, as you pointed out, on the 26th of May. That new moon, astrologically, it's 6 degrees of Gemini, and Mercury heading right towards it at 2 degrees of Gemini during the new moon. This new moon gives us a heads up on the progress we've made towards allowing innovation, or the innovative things we've been working on to get expressed, and to get expressed in all that we do, and to find ourselves really going to a much higher dimension of expression. we're moving now progressively out of the third dimensional reality into a fifth dimensional awareness. And fifth dimensional awareness works in a completely different way. It's instantaneous understanding. It's light speed creation. And we're not all quite there yet, but we're working towards that evolution into that fifth dimensional reality. This is an opportunity at this new moon and following the new moon to really get to see that for ourselves and to embody it and integrate it. And it's a powerful new moon. The Jupiter has been in the sign of Gemini, and Jupiter is a planet that has to do with expansion and growth. And it has been for a good part of May in a right angle to the moving soul path for humanity, which has been Pisces. So essentially that's led to this kind of fractioning of our society in America anyway, in many parts of the world, where there are two very distinct different camps of ways of seeing things and being, and there doesn't seem to be a way for them to come together and create some harmony. But essentially what we're seeing is kind of the extremes, and those extremes have a potential to get resolved. So those of us who are working with the elements of higher consciousness and higher awareness are being called now to bring our work and our light into the world in a way that we foster peace, that we foster communication, that we foster connection. And Jupiter has been really leading the way with this, with its transit through Gemini. Not an easy place for Jupiter to be. Jupiter is about expansion, and Gemini tends to fragment and go in lots of different directions. So what we're going to see is that fairly soon Jupiter leaves the sign of Gemini, goes into the sign of Cancer, where it's exalted, and where we have the potential for creating some really phenomenal outcomes. There's several really favorable aspects going on. There's mostly at this new moon, favorable flowing aspects. We've got Venus together with Chiron in a beautiful sextile to that Jupiter, that planet of expansion and growth. So this is potentially great for abundant money flow, and perhaps even from unexpected sources. Just look to see how can that money flow come to you in perhaps ways that are unexpected or different or unusual. It's the overall picture here at this new moon is that the energies are really underscoring the essential call now to live our lives from our spiritual inspiration instead of from the ego, instead of from what we want, what we're pushing for, but really from our higher inspiration. And when we get in alignment with that high inspiration, that inner clarity, then our lives move in harmony with the cycles of the earth. The other thing that's been going on throughout, and this will take us into the end of the month of May, the planet Pluto moved into the sign Aquarius. This is a big change for humanity. It's a change that's been over 20 years in coming. And it's, what it's signaling now that Neptune, the planet of high inspiration, has moved into Aries. It's signaling a time where the hard work we've all been doing of inner transformation, inner healing, it now has an opportunity to get grounded and in a way that we can make it practical and implement what we've learned and what we've been inspired to acknowledge and step into within ourselves. So stepping into a higher frequency, yes, and then also grounding that with practical solutions and actions that are beneficial. So that's the overall energy of this new movement. It's a very flowing, kind of easy energy, which it hasn't been for a lot of the beginning of this year. So it's very welcome right now, I would say.
So we've broken the news gently to everybody that maybe what we were so excited about before, not going to do it anymore. And we move into the month of June. And as we do that, we enter into this time where the channel the 3536 is in, the nodes still in the 36, they've been in there for quite some time, a couple of months, and the sun is moving into the gateway number 35. So this goes on for the first week of the month of June. 3536 is this channel, I call it versatility. It's this, I could say it's a gift. Basically, we have a look at something, and rather than like, look, do we have any enthusiasm? Is it going to go anywhere or not? We can get over the experience very quickly. We just say, oh yeah, I've been there, done that. I don't need to go any further with it. So as we enter into June, again, this possibility to evaluate whether we want to go any further with something. Does it have any sense of progress for us? Or is it just another bright, shiny object? And the sun at this time in gate 35 opens up this life theme that we call consciousness. Consciousness is everything. I mean, we can call it existence, we can call it God, we can call it love, we can call it all kinds of things. It's just the awareness that everything has some form of spirit in it. Everything has consciousness in it. And it's just that reacquaintance for the first 5 days of the month to just reattune to that. You know, what am I chasing after so frantically in my life? You know, is it enough just to be me? Is it enough just to have this life? So on the 2nd of the month, the Earth in the 5 with the second line, and we have Jupiter going into gateway number 15. And this is basically opens up this channel of universal rhythm, the 515. It's a fascinating channel, this one, in that it's I won't say it goes against clocks, but it has its own natural timing altogether, the timing of nature. And nature is quite recognizably changing a few things around in terms of climate, in terms of, you know, nesting times for birds, the flowering times for plants, all kinds of seasons are changing at the moment. And so great opportunity for us all to kind of get reacquainted in ourselves. Oh, well, I was expecting it to be a spring day today, and actually it's pouring with rain. What's that all about? So just reacquainting ourselves with nature. Great time to go for a walk in the woods, great time to hang out in nature and just observe, you know, what are the birds up to, for example. As we move a little bit further along into the month, we have a nodal change. And this, I've said the nodes were in the 36 and the gateway number 6, and all of a sudden they move into the 22 and the 47. The 22 is the gateway of grace. This is the north node for all of us, and this takes place on the 13th of the month. Have you ever remembered times in your life where you're just carrying on life as usual, and you know there's so many things that you can't manage in your life, and then all of a sudden you recognize, hey, there's a door over there. You know, I never saw that possibility before. I never saw, all I ever saw was the horizon. That was all that was possible. And now I can see there's a way to go through. And so I can just forecast for all of us, there's going to be some startling events as we get into the month of June. We're going to start seeing, my goodness, there's these things, they've always probably been there, but I've never really recognized their significance. And a lot of things just coming to us, things dropping into place with us, just, oh my goodness, now this all makes sense. Now this all adds up. We might say we've been subject in these last months to some really crazy events going on the planet, seemingly, you know, completely out of context. It's like, what on earth is this all happening for? And as we enter into June, a lot of these things are going to start making sense to us. Oh, now I begin to see things in a larger picture. And if I acquaint myself again with nature, you know, get off the whole tech thing of, you know, it's supposed to be on according to some particular plan related to computing, all of a sudden I begin to see what is natural, what is the natural significance of things that are coming about in this. So a lot of the energy, a lot of the openings that we've had in the month of May, all of a sudden become very apparent in June, which way things are going for us. So I'm going to hand over to you, and then we'll talk about the full moon presently. Yeah?
The full moon, the new moon, you mean?
Mm-hmm. It's a full moon on the 11th of the month, I think, isn't it?
Yes.
Yeah.
But I'm.
I know. I've gone racing ahead. I got the bit between my teeth.
There's a lot happening, and it's really it is a very exciting time, and it's a time pregnant with a lot of potential for all of us. But let's look at, so I took you through the last part of May, looking at the astrological energies. And now I want to look at the beginning of June, starting with the first quarter moon in Virgo on June 2nd. Because, as I think many of you know who've been following us for a while, if we look at the lunation cycles, the new moon starts a new 30-day cycle. And there's points in that cycle that are significant. The first significant point is the first quarter moon that happens about a week after the new moon. Then we have the full moon, then the third quarter moon, and so forth. So the beginning of June brings us this first quarter moon after this catalyst of the new moon that we saw on May 26th. The sun, having moved into Gemini, did that on May 20th, now conjoining Mercury. So we've got Mercury in Gemini, we also have Jupiter in Gemini and the sun in Gemini. That's a lot of social interaction. It's a great time also for new learning, or creating new friendships, or participating in like group experiences and that sort of thing. So just a really fabulous time for furthering ourselves through new learning and through social interactions. There's also a really highly creative cycle happening in early June with Mars in Leo, which is, a sign of a lot of creativity. And you put Mars, which is a fiery planet anyway, that just wants to move and do things and get things done. Mars is about our work in the world. You put it in Leo and it gets highly creative and dynamic. And it's linking positively with those Gemini planets. So we've got a high creative cycle of all kinds of new ideas and new possibilities and new people, new networks opening up in our life. The next thing I want to look at is the Venus. So Venus is a sign, the planet that has to do with our love nature. It's our human desire for connection, for relationship, for love, for beauty, for all the things that make life inspiring and deeply fulfilling. And Venus has been in Aries, which is, not its favorite sign because Aries is fiery and Venus tends to be very earthy and watery and airy, and, it wants to connect, and fire just wants to go and do. But there's no bad sign for a planet to be in. And while it's been in Aries, it's also been in this beautiful triangle with the creative Mars in Leo. So we've had potentially a really highly romantic time, and if not romantic, certainly creative. So all kinds of new creative ideas and creative inspirations coming hard and fast, all during this time, late May into early June. And it finds its place of sort of, catalytic expression right here in the early part of June at this first quarter moon, when Venus and Chiron combine. As they do that, they're forming a beautiful linking energy with Jupiter. So what do we have? We've got high creativity. We've got Chiron's move to the highest, to, more alignment with our higher self. So high creativity, higher self-awareness, and Jupiter's expansion and growth. So, this is a cycle of great flow of energy, and it can be great money flow, it can be great romantic flow, great creative flow. Really lovely energy just supporting us to bring our heart and soul into expression in the world. Then we've got Pluto, I mentioned earlier, Pluto just having moved into Aquarius recently. And that sets the stage for a whole new experience for humanity. How do we become, the Aquarian sign is about humanity. And how do we take this humanitarian energy and relate it with Pluto? Pluto's the planet of transformation, death, and rebirth. So it has to do with the dying away of the old ways of governments, the old ways of, countries and borders and divisions, and finding new pathways, new creative ways of expressing and communicating with each other and co-creating with each other, which is happening in the midst of all the seemingly world chaos that we're seeing around us. So it's really highly innovative. Pluto's in some of the best aspects that it's been in for a long time. Pluto's, as I pointed out, in this sextile with Saturn and Neptune in Aries, this, bringing this light speed innovation and inspired new creativity, just, hard and fast new ideas coming, innovation coming. And the planet Uranus now is moving in to interact with this already potent combination of energy. So Uranus, as it's moving to completion of a 7-year cycle, Uranus, remember, is the planet of change and the breakthrough to awareness of higher states of being. And it's completing a 7-year journey where it's been in Taurus, the sign of values. And we've been really looking at our values and redoing and elevating our values all this time, this past 7 years. Now it's moving into a highly social sign of Gemini. So when it does that, then it links favorably with the Pluto, the Neptune, the Saturn. So we have all this innovation, all these new principles that are trying to get born. And we've got Uranus, breaking through new breakthroughs, taking us higher and higher to new potential. So it's a matter really of us being to modulate our energy to keep up with the raising frequency that's going on the planet. Whether, so much of the population doesn't see it at all and isn't attuned to it at all. For those of us that are attuned to it, we're being called to bring our gifts into the world. Even though they're not perfected, perhaps, or we don't feel ready, we're being called now. It's time.
So I've been talking from the human design perspective of perhaps reacquainting ourselves with the natural rhythms of life. We've all had our feathers ruffled this last month or two. There's all kinds of nutty things going on. A lot of exciting things as well, with great potentials, but also a sense of despondency. It's like, where's it all going? And I'm saying as we get into the month of June, we'll start realizing, we begin to start recognizing where things are taking us. And so come the 7th of the month, the sun goes into gateway number 45 and opens up this life thing we call rulership. And rulership is really about taking sovereignty in one's own life, like taking charge of one's own life. And just being really clear, who and what's really important to me, and who and what gets a place in my life. And come the 11th of the month, we have the full moon. And so if the sun's in the 45, this gateway of the king, the queen, the one who takes charge of things, the moon is in this gateway number 26. And the 26 is the gateway of accumulation. It's in the willpower center. And we know from human design that most people don't have the willpower center turned on. Only about 30% of the world population have this access to consistent willpower. It's not a good or a bad thing. It's just about working out how to work with that. How is that relevant for one if you have an undefined willpower center? You have to be really, really particular about what it is that holds value for you. And when you get called to interact with life, to engage with that sense of value. So the moon, the full moon being in gateway number 26, in this willpower center, this gateway of accumulation, like what do we really draw to us? What do we sense holds for us the highest value, right? What are we prepared to put our willpower into? And it takes place in the 4th line. The 4th line is a very particular line in any hexagram, because if we're using a pronoun for the 4th line, we say it's we. We are all in this together. We are all wanting something of a similar nature with this 26 gateway. We want something of value. And so as you look around the world, you can get the sense a lot of people have very, very different values. And so the 4th line, very particular, it says preventing, keeping away from irrelevant and dishonorable forms of interactions. I think all of us know what is a dishonorable interaction. The 26 is very good at persuading people. Oh, you must do this. This is really great. This is fantastic. Everyone should have this. Advertising, they're very, very particular. And I think all of us have fallen for things that actually have no value for us at all at various times in our life. And so this 4th line, this full moon is saying, come on, decide for yourself. What is it that really, really holds value for you? And who is it that's trying to twist your arm to consider something that actually cannot hold value for you at all? Who are the people that are with you? What is it that you really seek to promote in life? What holds that value? And who and what stands with you on that? So it's a very, very particular full moon to be very, very clear what it is you're really chasing after, who's with you in this as well. Or are you just being led down the garden path? And talking about garden path, come the 14th of the month, the sun goes into gateway number 12 and opens up this life theme we call the Garden of Eden. So for 5 days, the sun sits in gateway number 12, and right away we have a connection with gateway number 22, the North Node Destiny for Humanity. We have this channel, the 1222. I was talking about earlier on, all of a sudden realizing, oh, there's a gap there. There's something that must have always been there. I never noticed it. There's a way through. There's something different can take place. So we started out the month with the 3536, evaluating, oh, been there, done that, don't need to do that kind of thing anymore. And then the 1222 shows up and says, oh, something different, something completely different just came up on the radar here. So be aware of that come the 14th of the month, and it goes for 4 or 5 days, just to see there's an opening, there's a possibility, something massively empowering, creative, new opening possible. At the same time, with the sun in the gateway number 12, the Garden of Eden, you know, there's this story that at one point in time, everything was just hunky-dory, and then somebody ate an apple or something and we got thrown out of the garden. Anyway, what's the apple represent, you know, and who's this snake character? I don't know. But it's, we kind of think we're out of the garden. We kind of think that, you know, we're massive sinners, we've done something terribly wrong, you know, we've been thrown out of this perfect life form. And it's just a reminder, you know, life is perfect. You have not put a foot wrong yet. You cannot put a foot wrong. It's all about raising awareness. That's what life's all about. It's consistently about raising awareness. And we have opportunities every moment of the day to approach something out of a reactive state into an engaging state. And that's what this Garden of Eden is reminding us. It's like, have a look around. This planet's amazing. You know, life is amazing. Life is a miracle. Nobody knows what life is. And we're having this experience. And the more we commit to the sense that we've done something wrong, life is unfair, I'm a victim of things, then of course there's no resolution. But the moment we begin to recognize that life is something that happens for us, everything changes. And we really are in one of those points in time of life. Carol is explaining all these shifts in the planets into this whole new spectrum of possibilities. And it's the same when we look in the human design scene. We're moving back into a realization. This is the garden. We've just got to clean up the act around us a little bit. You know, shift the awareness out of destruction and move it into creativity. You know, two ends of the spectrum. And this is the possibility for all of us, being more and more and more creative, raising our awareness. What's life all about? Life begets more life. Let's have an amazing lifetime, whatever it is that comes about. Anyway, I'm burbling on.
No, but it's really time. I mean, you know, one of the things that Shatan and I have realized over the years is that we can look through the astrological energies and we can look through the human design matrix, and they do give us very different and unique perspectives. But so often the themes, the major themes, are very similar. They're, you know, because what are we reading? We're reading the evolution of humanity. So I'm going to go back to the full moon.
Absolutely.
And the full moon happens on June 11th. This full moon in Sagittarius, opposite the sun in Gemini. This can be a really, really fun full moon. It's a time of potentially a lot of social interaction, travel, parties. You know, it's a time for exploration. And although we still have much of the flowing energy that we had in the earlier part of June, beginning of June, as we come to this full moon, essentially what we look at when we have a full moon is that, okay, now we're at the point where the new seed has been planted and we've been moving in that direction. And at the full moon, we should come to some point of full realization. And that what is that full realization that happens with this full moon in Sagittarius? You know, if you look at, you know, Jupiter is the ruler of Sagittarius, and it's about, you know, high principles and vision. And we've got the full moon in the triangle aspect to Mars and Leo, creativity. How can we bring our creativity? How can our creativity reflect our high vision, our high spiritual inspiration? And how can we then ground that, make it practical, make it useful? And, you know, there's a big grand triangle in the sky between the full moon, Mars, and Chiron, that huge asteroid body in space that facilitates the alignment of lower self and higher self. I mean, it's a huge gift to humanity to have this bridge that takes us from the personality, the third dimensional reality, into the fifth and higher dimensional reality, where we can become aware of our soul essence. And from that perspective, begin to live a life that is truly creative. So this is what we're being called to. We're being called to become aware of this right now, all of us. It's time. And so for those of us who are listening and can hear the call, because we're more in alignment with our inner truth, then we're being called to not only have the inner awareness and inner shifts, but to raise our frequency in such a way that we then also positively affect the world in numerous ways and in our own unique ways. Jupiter leaving the sign of Gemini and going into the sign of Cancer, where it's exalted, it's bringing, you know, nurturing, and it's about benefiting others and sharing resources. The full moon is going to highlight this and highlight creative breakthroughs also in healing technologies and opportunities in spiritual awakening that are coming now, as the the challenge to integrate this new awareness that we're all dawning or birthing into. The challenge is to integrate it into how we're living our daily lives, how we're doing our business, how we are with our families, with our loved ones, with our community, to really bring it into the fabric of life. And that's Jupiter and Cancer's great gift to us. The challenge at this point is, as Jupiter moves into Cancer, it joins Mercury. And this is a lovely joining, and there's a lot of learning, but essentially the main learning of this aspect is the art of letting go of what's no longer relevant. And we see this with Jupiter and Mercury making a right angle to Saturn and Neptune in Aries. So Neptune's ready to take us into a completely new dimension, new reality, new expression, new understanding of life. And Saturn's here helping to ground it. Jupiter and Mercury together in Cancer kind of wants to preserve what is. So we may feel some inner tension between that desire to stay with the familiar and this push to go with the new. Essentially, the more that we can allow ourselves to simply release and let go, as I said, of what's no longer relevant, what no longer really is working for us, then, the easier this change will be. We might even find ourselves impatient with change, wanting it to come faster. There's, high velocity breakthroughs that are necessitating right now the dismantling of the old systems and the way we used to do things. So it may look messy and it may be messy, but the light is dawning. And as that light dawns, then the potential is to rebuild, recreate in a way that brings greater harmony and greater balance, and therefore greater inspiration and creativity into the world. That's the work that we all of us here at Evolutionary Human Design, all of you who follow our work and bless our lives by being with us, learning human design, etc., that this is, I know, what you're here to do also. So know that we are all here together to raise the frequency of the planet. And then everything we do towards that end has gravitas.
So from the human design perspective, we see it's moving out of any state of reaction and moving into a state of engaging with life, whatever life presents to us. And as we get a little bit further on, we've seen mid-month this possibility of stepping through a new doorway, of just embracing life in a very, very different way than we have before. Recognizing that certain people, certain situations, they no longer match with us. We might say the frequencies are not a match anymore, there's a dissonance. And so, interesting feature from the human design perspective, we come to the 16th of the month, and Chiron, this big rock, this big asteroid that goes around us, that has this 51-year orbit. And basically, from an energy point of view, shifts us out of the 3D reality into a more fifth dimensional reality, takes us out of a, very rule and regulation based life into a much more free experience of life. And so at this time on the 16th, it moves out of gateway number 42, which is a gate of growth and increase and expanding on all kinds of life experiences, and moves into gateway number 3. And the energy of gateway number 3 is something completely different, in the sense it's the gate of innovation. Completely different. No continuity, just all of a sudden, boom, here's something completely different. And so if we're talking about in terms of health on a spiritual level, it's realizing I'm not engaging with my life in the same way that I used to. Or let's just say there's a whole energy for me to appreciate my life in a much higher frequency, in a much higher way. And it's going to be a little uncomfortable to start with, very likely. Just to see that, my goodness, I was so tied into the old health plan and the old way of doing stuff and, just going for it. And now just seeing perhaps there's less effort required. And all I got to do is appreciate the fact that something radical has changed. At the same time, the sun goes into gateway number 15. This is the gateway where we open up the vessel of love. And we started out the month with this interaction between the Earth and Jupiter in this channel of 515, and now the sun in this love gate. And of course, this is the time of the, what do we call it, the summer equinox?
The summer solstice.
Summer solstice, right? The middle of, well, is it the beginning of summer?
It's the beginning of the summer.
In the Northern Hemisphere, right? So it's kind of an all change. It's one of those radical moments in time where the energy changes completely, as does 21st of December, the other way. So the vessel of love, what is the vessel of love all about? And the 15th gateway in particular is this love of humanity. It's actually the love of life altogether, anything that has a pulse. There's that sense of amazement. What is this thing? How is this thing alive? Life is so precious. How did I get this possibility to have this life experience? I'm not saying life is dead easy. I mean, there's all kinds of challenges come up, but the 15th gateway just reacquaints us with that possibility of connecting with life itself, to have our finger on the pulse of life altogether. So that vessel of love carries us through for 5 days, through that solstice. And I know you got some astrological comments to make for that particular time. It's a very particular solstice this year around. But just to remind us all, we are all on the same boat here. This blue dot in the middle of space and this tiny galaxy in the midst of this massive expanding universe. And we can get along. We really can get along. We may have completely different points of view and different attitudes to things, but it's about recognizing, embracing the movement into a higher sense of consciousness at the moment. And it happens through our awareness. It happens through us moving out of reaction, the standard reactive patterns that we have in life, to our parents, to our kids, to our friends, to our workers, friends. We have reactive patterns. And just recognize, maybe there's another way to play this. Maybe if we all really appreciate each other, things can work out very differently. Carol and I have worked quite often with families and with small businesses. And, you know, finding in a small business, even in the C-suite, there could be a bit of competition going on around the table. And just recognizing, you know, introducing people to each other through their human design. And all of a sudden, the energy changes completely. Everybody sees the gifts and talents that each other person brings, and the whole energy of the thing changes. So there's much to be held in this time to realize, yes, this solstice is a very, very particular one. So I'm going to hand over to you.
Yeah, I would agree. It's extraordinary, powerful solstice. The solstice happens when the sun leaves Gemini and moves into the sign of Cancer, and that's on June 20th. And right before that, we have a third quarter moon. So the third quarter moon is setting up the energy for the solstice to arrive. The third quarter moon, the sun is still back in Gemini. It's at about 28 degrees of Gemini, conjoining Jupiter in early Cancer. So the pressure to finish, to complete the cycle that began all the way back at the new moon back in May 26th, the pressure has built now and really come to a head right around June 18th, as we have this third quarter moon. It's like, you know, it's time to get into action. The rapidly evolving consciousness that we're all experiencing right now, and the breakthroughs in awareness bring a challenge to a lot of our old ways of doing things, our old religious beliefs. So we're coming to a point of maximum tension and focus at this third quarter moon, and as the sun moves into Gemini, with what is it that we really believe? What do we stand for? And what do we know to be true within ourselves? That's really the question of this time, and especially at the summer solstice, very powerful time, June 20th, as the sun moves into 0 degrees of Cancer, where it's going to form this right angle with Jupiter. So the sun and Jupiter together, sun at 0 degrees Cancer, Jupiter at 2 degrees of Cancer, in a right angle to Saturn and Neptune at 1 and 2 degrees of Aries, respectively. So this is this linchpin, this point of realization that if we move through it with clarity, then what we do is we release a lot of the old ways that we've been holding ourselves back, or the attachment to old ways of doing things, and we just fully go ahead and step into what's new. So we're, getting in alignment with all of the emerging new technology that's supporting the progress that is happening. It is the progress that we all really envision in our hearts and souls. It's perhaps a little difficult to feel like we can get into step with it, but that is what we're called to do at this time, to just let go of what we've relied on in the past and step into a new frequency, a higher frequency, and a new possibility. Start adapting to the new technologies. They're here to stay, not going away, and begin finding the creative ways and the positive ways to put them to use. So in some of us, maybe many of us, will be having lots of creative ideas and all kinds of breakthroughs about things we want to do and ways we want to expand, and that really is kind of the theme for this whole month of June. What we might find a bit of frustration with is having the resources that we desire, the resources of time, the resources of money, energy, for all the growth and expansion that we want to do. So we have to get a bit discerning about what we're going to actually choose to do. And part of that discernment has to do with working with our awareness. Einstein said that no problem can be solved from the same level of consciousness that it was created. So essentially what that's saying is that fifth dimensional awareness and fifth dimensional thinking is what's needed now. So fifth dimensional thinking is intuitive thinking. It's having an intuition, it's having a breakthrough, it's just knowing something to be true. And, going with that knowing, trusting, and it's needed now in order for us to receive the inspiration for the high level solutions that third dimensional thinking alone cannot resolve, cannot take us to. So elevating our consciousness is the most essential thing we can do for the 21st century. And it's the underlying, call to action, call to the light of this particular time that we're in, and particularly at this very powerful summer solstice.
So I'm going to move on just a little bit more to the 25th of the month. And here we have a new moon. And the moon cycles are always fascinating in that the world actually runs on the moon. I mean, the sun is all very good and has its own program, but the reflection that we get is from the moon, and in our lives as well. It's all our feeling memories, whether from this lifetime or other lifetimes, other circumstances, whatever. And so a new moon always brings up a new possibility to remind us. And here this time on the 25th, the new moon is in gateway number 52. The gateway 52 is called mountain, stillness. And so in this time of such massive changes that are apparently taking place, I mean, nothing new under the sun, but, in our life experience, all kinds of crazy things are happening. And we're seeing, as Carola says, we're being called on to make this shift out of 3D to 5D. It's a huge thing. Hasn't happened in a long time, or that opportunity has not happened in a long, long, long time. And so the 52 and mountain, if you ever have the fortune to be around the Himalayas or the Alps or some of these extraordinary mountains that are the Tetons, nothing is quite so still as a mountain. And the new moon there is just reminding us, all this crazy stuff's going on around us. Can you find the stillness? Can you be calm and quiet inside yourself? Oh, wow, this is quite a scene going on here, but in myself, I'm balanced, I'm clear. Life is something that's happening for me, and I will find my way through this. As long as I relax, I get out of any consistent reacting, that life is a bad thing, that all kinds of terrible things are happening to me, that I move into a space of acceptance. And in acceptance, we are absolutely still. So the first line here is called pause before acting. Inner stillness is sufficient unto itself. I remember early on in life, Rudyard Kipling's poem, If you can keep your head when all about you are losing theirs and blaming it on you. I mean, it's really, there is great humor in that as well, just to see life can do some funny things with us. But if we're still inside, if we're clear inside, if we're in love with our life, accepting it, then absolutely nothing can ruffle us. And that's the magic we're all looking for in fifth dimension.
It's about acceptance, isn't it? Really, in the end. Because we all have challenges. If we accept the challenges, if we don't rail against them and pound our fists to, what we expect to happen, if we instead accept all the bounty and the love and the light and the opportunities that life brings, but also the challenges that life brings, because without the challenges, we don't grow in consciousness. We don't evolve on our whim. So they're just as important as all the goodies. Did I interrupt?
I know I've said my piece for this new moon, just that we all find that state of inner tranquility in ourselves, and we don't get our feathers ruffled, we don't blow up, we don't react with all the crazy phenomena taking place around us. We just see, maybe I'm shifting my perspective into a higher possibility here.
Yeah. I'm
fed up with reacting, I'm fed up with the same old. Let's try something completely different. I mean, I talked earlier about, Chiron making a 51-year shift into the innovation. And I gather at this time, there's this celebration for Monty Python, 50 years old, and it was a completely innovative way of going into a sense of the ridiculousness of life. And, how funny we all are in doing just mundane things in life. And I think we can all be reminded of that, how we get ruffled about absolutely nothing. To just see, what do they say? Always look on the bright side of life.
Right. It's like we live in this hologram. We forget that we're here having an experience, playing a part and having an experience, and our spirit essence is our actual true being. So we've projected a part of ourselves into the physical plane of reality in order to have an experience. But this isn't all of who we are. Anyway, we're going to be back with you again. Our next broadcast is going to be June 21st. But I'll just say a little bit about, you mentioned the new moon that happens on the 25th. That new moon in the sign of Cancer is going to be conjoined with Jupiter. So again, we're this tremendous amount of nurturing and loving energy that is coming from and out of really the challenges for so much growth, so much energy, so much movement into new ways, new possibilities, and so much of the chaos that happens in the middle of change. That I'll bring us back to your point, Chatan, to find the still point within ourselves, to find that, point of reference of our spirit essence and being within. It's not just about, helping to comfort ourselves during challenging times, but it's really about finding what is the creative way to interact with these challenging times. What am I being called to do in these challenging times? How can I help? How can I be of service? And that is Jupiter in Cancer. And as the sun has its new moon in Cancer together with Jupiter, that's the question we'll be asking here towards the end of June and into a good part of the month of July. We'll be back with you again on the 21st, and we'll look forward to seeing you all again then.
It's our great pleasure. We'll see you soon.